As of Monday, July 8th, the Cleveland Cavaliers have yet to make a free agency signing or any trades this summer. Koby Altman and the front office have stuck to their guns, showing a total commitment to the core four and the roster they have built. Now, it's still relatively early in the summer, and there's a few things the Cavs have to figure out first. Mainly what they are going to do with Okoro and his restricted free agency, what cap implications will follow as a result of that decision. So I do think there are some moves on the horizon that just haven't been made yet, but I want to focus on the offseason so far, and I have a few key points we will discuss. First, Koby Altman's vision for the team and what direction he is taking them. Then we will talk about the coaching staff and how I think those moves are something that could really pay dividends, and then what the Cavs have managed to accomplish this summer. I know we were all waiting for a key addition in free agency, but securing Mitchell to an extension, drafting an on-ball creator in Tyson, and then potentially locking down Mobley to an extension as well. Those are all things that we need to highlight. Finally, what else do the Cavs have to do in order to walk out of the summer feeling like winners? In my opinion, they haven't done quite enough. I think there's some clear work left for them to do, but I see a path where the Cavs can do enough to leave me feeling satisfied. Before we get started, let me bother you by saying if you enjoy my videos and you are not yet subscribed, please consider doing so. Hitting subscribe and dropping a like goes a long way to helping me out, and I appreciate all of the support that I've been getting in recent weeks. It truly means a lot, and I can't wait to keep this momentum going. Now, as for the Cavs, I think people would argue that they have lost momentum in the 2 years following the Donovan Mitchell trade. People are upset that Koby Altman has not been super aggressive since making that big swing, but it is important to remember the Cavs took this swing because they believe in the long-term development of Garland, Mobley, and Allen. Altman was tying the future of this franchise to the internal growth of his four key players, who at their peak are either borderline or actual all-star players. And so it's worth giving Koby credit for building a strong foundation and then finding a way to add Mitchell into the mix. Mitchell is a player who raises their ceiling to a height that was previously out of reach. And before I get into the more critical aspects of Koby's tenure, I think we just have to give the dude credit for aggressively acquiring a top 10 player and then successfully convincing him to extend long term. You can cope and seethe all you want, but the Cavs heard non-stop chatter that Mitchell would never commit long term in Cleveland from the moment they traded for him, and yet here we are with Mitchell completely buying into the franchise. This is a huge win for Koby, and so if there's one crowning achievement of the summer so far, it's winning the Donovan Mitchell trade once and for all, and securing the second or third best player in franchise history. So what else have the Cavs done? I think not only replacing JB with an offensive-minded coach in Kenny Atkinson, but going on to hit a full reset by building a new coaching staff altogether with guys like Johnny Bryant, Damari Carroll, and Jordan Ott is hugely important. This staff can provide a fresh take on the Cavs offense, which I would argue has been the single greatest thing holding them back. Finding a way to free up the flow of this group and put more points on the board is the challenge that this coaching staff will have to tackle. And it's noteworthy that most of these guys have a background in player development. I think it's pretty clear that, again, Koby is tying his faith to the internal growth of this roster. And one of the main complaints that we heard throughout the JB era was the lack of development from numerous Cavs players, whether it be Darius, Garland, and Evan Mobley, down to the supporting guys like Okoro. Koby is assembling a staff that should be able to right that wrong and get the most out of his group. And I really like the addition of Johnny Bryant. This is a guy who was on the Cavs shortlist for the head coaching position, and he has strong ties to Donovan Mitchell. And so I just think the coaching staff additions overall have been fantastic, and it's right next to the Mitchell extension as their most important moves of the summer. But now, where do the Cavs go from here? I don't think anyone is fully satisfied, and we can all see that if you've been following the team in recent years, it's pretty obvious they need a wing. This team simply cannot afford to walk into next season without padding their depth in this department. I'm not even saying they need a starting caliber wing, but they need some help in their rotation, someone other than Dean Wade, where I like Dean Wade. I do think he's a great option to have on your bench, but they can't continue to rely on him as heavily as they have over the last 3 years. He's injury prone, he's hesitant, he clearly lacks confidence within the offense, and maybe that's something that changes under a new coaching staff, but my point is Dean Wade is not your savior. He has proven that over and over again, and the Cavs need to find another option here to add to their rotation because it would just be inexcusable for them to come up short on this. It has been their biggest need for 2 full years now, and something has to be done. Now, there is a problem. The free agency options this year were scarce to begin with, and now that we are a full week into the signings, their options are truly running thin. There's only a handful of guys left who I think are even worth considering at this point. At the top of that list would be names like Cedi Osman and Saddiq Bey. I think if you add one of these guys to the roster, even someone like Bey, who I know he won't be available to play until probably the second half of the season because of an ACL injury he suffered back in March, but he would benefit the team long term. He's only 25 years old, and I feel relatively confident that if you buy low on Bey this year, it will end up paying off in the future. I fully believe in his jump shot, and I think he has a big bounce back coming for him in the second half of his career. And overall, the Cavs would be at least adding talent at a position of need, whether it's Bey or Osman. Those are both solid pickups that would help them moving forward. So adding a wing in free agency is still priority number 1 for me. I know the free agency group stinks, but at this point, you can't come up completely empty. And the bar remains Dean Wade and George Niang on this bench. So if you can find anyone who can provide better minutes than those guys, or at least be more durable and available, then I don't see how it's anything but a win. I am very comfortable running it back with the same core 4 next year, but I do not share that sentiment for the bench. The supporting cast needs to be shuffled, and adding a free agent is one way to start doing that. The other thing the Cavs can do is find a smaller scale trade partner. Again, I don't think it's necessary to trade Allen or Garland. I feel comfortable with the core 4. I've talked about this at length in previous videos, and I'm sure I'll continue to talk about it, but looking elsewhere on the roster, the Cavs should strongly consider moving guys like LeVert and Okoro. I have no idea what their value is on the market, but names such as Cam Johnson or DeAndre Hunter are enough to move me. If you can do a swap for one of these players, then I am totally in. I think Dorian Finney-Smith also belongs in that conversation, although I am a little lower on him than others. But my point is, I have personally seen enough from this Cavs second unit to know that they can't be trusted in the playoffs. I'm as big of an Okoro fan as anyone on the internet, and I would gladly bring him back. I would rather include LeVert in any of these deals if it was possible, but I would probably let go of Okoro if it meant landing someone like Johnson, who theoretically fits this team perfectly. I actually think Johnson would probably start at small forward for this squad, and that would be a clear win for me. Again, I know the cap limitations make this complicated. I'm not even going to bother getting into that. I just think the Cavs supporting cast is currently the weakest aspect of this team, and a change of scenery here is probably the most important thing they have to figure out. One player who could help them in this regard is the incoming rookie Jaylen Tyson. Now, if you've heard me talk about Tyson, then you already know I'm pretty high on this guy, at least as high as you can reasonably be for the 20th pick in a weak draft. But Tyson has legit size. He might be a little shorter than you would hope, but he's big enough to where I think he can genuinely play small forward, and he can definitely play minutes at the 2. He's a strong pull-up shooter, he's a talented ball handler, and Tyson really excelled at creating his own shot in college, and if any of that translates to the NBA, then he slots in perfectly with the Cavs. And so for me, Tyson is a low-risk, high-reward scenario for the Cavs. I'm not saying this is a guarantee to hit by any means, but it's something to be excited about and keep an eye on because, again, Tyson just fits this team perfectly. If he develops into the player he has the potential to be, then I see him being in the rotation 100%. So let's recap what we have. The Cavs have revamped their coaching staff with offensive-minded and player development specialists in an attempt to get the most out of their core group. That core can now rest assured that Donovan Mitchell is committed long-term, and assuming we get a Mobley extension soon, that means the Cavs will have locked up a top 10 player in the NBA in Donovan Mitchell, and arguably a top 5 defender at just 23 years old in Evan Mobley. Securing both of these players for the foreseeable future is a massive, massive win for the Cavs. On top of this, they add a rookie who I am tentatively bought in on. I think there's real potential for Tyson to blossom into a player who is firmly in their rotation, if not this year, then by his sophomore season. And again, because you got that commitment from Mitchell, it makes this a timeline that you can live with. So there is some good stuff the Cavs can hang their hat on this summer. And if they sign a player such as Cedi Osman to pad their wing depth a little more and then swing a trade to land Cam Johnson and solidify their starting 5, then I would consider this one hell of an offseason. I know Koby Altman is taking a huge risk by being as patient as he has been with this group. It's possible in a few years we will look back with frustration at all of the missed opportunities they had to get better or at least shake things up. But on the other hand, that patience could pay off. If the core 4 is unlocked by a fresh coaching staff and the marginal improvements he has made to the supporting group, then This is a team that won 48 games last year and a playoff series despite the wave of injuries that derailed their momentum, and so the potential growth and continuity of this team is still something that it could be higher than anything available on the trading block. The only thing left for us to do is wait and see how it all shakes out.